Welcome to Junkyard Theory, folks, and today's episode is pretty special. We got somebody who's worked on massive blockbusters ranging from Watchmen to 300, and he is most prominently known for performing stunts as a certain caped vigilante, and he made Batman badass again. And most recently, he was seen in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Richard Cetrone, welcome to the show, sir. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Richard, could you, tell me a little bit about your origin story? How did you get into stunts filmmaking, essentially?
Well, I got into stunts through martial arts, and I grew up in a city called Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, and I moved to California to study martial arts under Dan Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's protege. And I got to a certain proficiency in martial arts that he teaches, and started getting background work in stunts or in movies. I think I did two shows as they called it special talent, which is basically a fancy way of saying you're going to do stunts in the movie, but we're not going to pay you as a stuntman. We're going to pay you as a background performer. So I did that for a couple movies, and then I got my union card, my SAG card, and it just started from there. I think that was like 1992. So my way into stunts was through martial arts, and there's different ways. Gymnastics is a way. Recently, free running is a real popular way to get into stunts, but my way was through martial arts.
That's amazing. And starting out as a stunt performer, with the background in martial arts, how do you think that kind of helped you not just secure work, but through building discipline, all of that? Because it's not an easy industry to be in, right? So you got to have persistence. So how do you think that kind of helped you out?
Yeah, it definitely did. That helped me tremendously, because martial arts is, it's a lot of it is discipline and training your mind, not only your body to be strong, but your mind to be strong. Because if the body is strong and the body is willing, but the mind is weak, it's not going to work. You're not going to. You really have trouble defending yourself in any type of situation. So you have to strengthen both, and that definitely served me in stunt work. And I've done a lot of creature work, a lot of suit work, where you can be very uncomfortable in a suit. It gets really hot, it gets uncomfortable, and I think that training has definitely helped me to develop a mindset to be able to withstand, jobs like that. So I think martial arts was definitely the mental aspect was a big factor in everything I've done in stunts and any success I've had.
When you started out, basically learning the ropes about stunts and everything, was there anything that you were kind of like unprepared for to, essentially put your body through all the grueling, maybe the training, or maybe instantaneous suggestions that come in from the stunt coordinator? Anything kind of like that you had to learn on the go?
Well, I think I think the biggest thing, and I tell aspiring stunt performers this, the biggest thing I think that you really have to get used to and you have to get comfortable with, and you have to expect, is things will always change. You have to be able to adapt, and that's a lesson that I learned very early on. You can rehearse something, for a month, and then you get on the day, and for whatever reason, the director decides to change the shot, or the actor decides that he'd rather see something else in the choreography or something like that. It can change on an instant. So you can't be one of those people that gets locked into something and then just holds on to it tight. You have to be able to adapt. That was something, and I don't know if I really had trouble with it, but it was a really important lesson that I learned early on, is that it happens all the time. Things change all the time, and something else, that I learned is I never realized how much of a community aspect there was to film work. It's very much community. Of course, it takes a lot of people together to be all working together, and developing a rapport with people is really important. People, with people that really have trouble getting along with people that are really hard to get along with, they usually end up getting weeded out of this industry because it can be a tough job at times. At times we're working 14, 16-hour days, and you're seeing these people more than you're seeing your own family. So you have to be a type of person that gets along really well with everyone. And I've always been that type of person, but I was never really the type that would, because I'm a loner pretty much, right? So I was never really the type of person that would get together with people after work and bond and stuff. And that is actually important. It's not something you have to do all the time, but I think it is important that you bond with the people that you work with. And I think it helps create more cohesiveness on the job. So that's something that I learned as well, that it is important. You need to not just get along with people, but to bond with them as well, and spend some time with them, getting to know them. Because you could be on a job for almost a year. You could be on a job for 8 months, 6 months, 4 mons, whatever. So you're spending a lot of time with these people.
When you said loner, the image that popped to my mind was the one that Zack took, the photo that he took on the set of the warehouse fight scene. You in like a corner and trying to find like a quiet place for yourself.
Yeah, that was more about it being really hot, being in that suit all day long, and just trying to find my happy place. It's a mindset, like I said, and you just have to just roll with it. You can't think about all the people that you're sitting there watching, and they're wearing shorts and tank tops, and they're comfortable, and you can't think about that stuff. So you just kind of go somewhere, and you just kind of, until they need you, you kind of just go into your own little happy place.
Gotcha. And how long did that fight scene take to shoot?
It's the first thing we did when we started shooting. That was the first shots, and I think it was about 7 days. I think
that's pretty fast. I mean, for like certain fight scenes, like I guess on the raid they took like multiple weeks, and for something like this, it's 7 days. That's pretty amazing. And what you guys pulled off was insane. Because seeing that in the theater, that's when I think most people, not just me, we realize like, okay, this is different. Batman's different this time.
Yeah. We rehearsed a long time for that. I mean, we were. I'll tell you, everybody was fully invested in those fights in the warehouse, and we rehearsed a long time. And we were ready when it came to shoot. We were ready to go. All that hard work paid off for everyone.
It's interesting when you talked about how things could change on the day of the shoot, and taking into account like the previous video that you guys shot versus the fight scene that actually ended up being in the movie. They're like pretty similar shot for shot. So there weren't many changes at all, were there?
No, and that's one of the beauties of working with Zack. He's by far my favorite director to work with. You pretty much know when he okays something, you pretty much know this is what it's going to be. But even within that, even though it's the same thing as you saw in the previous, there's adjustments all the time. There's little adjustments that you probably will never see, that we have to make all the time. The stunt coordinator, Dave McCarroll, who coordinates most of Zack's films, I think he's coordinated pretty much every one of them, and does second unit directing as well. He has a real specific eye for what he wants. So he'll make little minute adjustments in the choreography, just minor things, maybe just something that I'm doing differently. I need to punch a little higher, and then okay, on this block over here, this block needs to be a little bit lower, and then okay, then when you do this, I want you to maybe take a little half a step closer to him before you hit him. And then when you hit him over here, I want you to come more downward because the camera is up a little high. So then you have to take all these notes that you're getting and remember them while you're doing the next take. So that's a big part of it. Getting used to all these minor adjustments and being able to inject them into your choreography, like immediately. That if you can do that, you become a valuable performer. If you can do that, because that's not easy to do. So if you can do things like that, you save the studio money. You save the production time. So those are really important things to work on.
And about that specific fight scene, I'm pretty sure so many people have asked you enough and more questions about that. But could you tell us a little bit about how it came about? Like, you're obviously a Batman fan, and getting to perform as a martial artist and bringing that aspect into this iteration of Batman. How did that process take place, like from the beginning to coming down to the character, I guess?
Well, you're right. I'm a huge Batman fan and have been since I was a kid. So I've said this many times. That was my dream job. Really, I don't think it'll get any better than that. But I first heard from Damon Caro, who is also a longtime training partner of mine and a very, very close friend. We've been friends for 30 years, I think it is, maybe a little over. So he contacted me and said, hey, Zack's looking at Ben Affleck to play Batman. So if he goes with Ben and Ben agrees, then I want you to audition for it. Because he's not going to give it to me, because that's just not how Damon does things. He wants the best guy to have the job, even though we're very close friends. It doesn't matter, right? So he's strictly a professional. And I said, oh my God, because I heard they were looking at what's the Irish actor's name? Colin
Farrell.
Yes, they were looking at him. They're Colin to play Batman, and there's no way I could double him. I'm a lot taller than he is. So when I heard they were looking at Ben, I was really super excited. So it turns out that they hired Ben. Zack wanted Ben, and Ben wanted to do it. And I auditioned the first time, and then they called me back to audition a second time. And then about a day later, Damon called me and said, "Hey, man, you were great, man. Because you're the guy for sure. We're using you." So I was just, I was just ecstatic. I'm not much of a dancer, but I think I danced around my house pretty good that day. And just really, that was, from the beginning of that show to the end of that show was just the best for me. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I think it was, it was something that I just considered that I had the best job in the world for that time. I would rather be doing that than any other job in the world. So I was really very happy.
I think anyone would be happy if they got to play a role like that. But
yeah,
yeah. Working with Zack, you worked with him, I guess, since 300 as a Spartan. Okay, so from the very first feature itself.
Yeah, I've done every live action movie, every one of Zack's live action movies I've done so far. I'm sure that there'll come a time when I'm not. He just doesn't use me for something because I'm just not right for it or whatever. But up until now, yeah, everyone.
And working with him, starting from Dawn of the Dead, moving into 300, Watchmen, and essentially slowly, into the Snyderverse. How do you think your work as a stuntman has evolved, I guess?
Well, there's a natural evolution, of course. When you do something for almost 30 years, you should improve and you should evolve. But I would say because of the way I've been challenged over the years, it's probably accelerated even more. I probably had a little more growth than maybe I expected, because I've been given a lot of responsibilities, and I've cherished those, and I love getting the responsibility. I like being in a situation where you have to do something and get it right the first or second time. I like when people trust me to be able to do things like that are difficult to do. We did Watchmen. I don't know if you ever saw Watchmen, but I did the opening fight scene, right? So I was fighting. A buddy of mine Tim Conley, who's a phenomenal stunt performer, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played the character. So you couldn't really see my face, so I got to do the fight myself, which was really great. But in that fight, there's a time when I grabbed Timmy and I chuck him across the room onto a glass table, and he smashes through the glass table. And we only had 2 tables. So the first take, he just came up short, and his heel clipped the table and broke the whole table. But it wasn't a good shot because he didn't go through it. It just his heel hit. So we have 1 table left. And so it comes down to, like, we got to work together. You know, I got to work together with Tim. We all got to work together with the riggers, and we all have to be in sync together to get this right. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure because the shots, you can't use the shot if we don't get this. You know, so I just love those moments. I really like being in those moments where, you know, when you're in high pressure situations like that, your evolution just, you know, anytime you can put yourself in a high pressure situation and you can handle it, your evolution in whatever you're doing is going to grow significantly. So that's kind of just an example of, you know, I think how I've been able to, my evolution as a stunt performer has been able to grow, you know, pretty nicely over the years.
Just gonna go back to 300 because that was, I'm pretty sure it was like a very physical role because you guys had to essentially be shirtless for pretty all the scenes that you were in. Mm-hmm. So the training aspect of it, not just 300, but the training aspect of being a stuntman, like the difficult levels of physicality that are required from you guys, like how do you prepare for that? And with prep time varying from production to production, how do you manage to keep up with the pressures?
Well, thankfully, you know, that was another Zack Snyder film, and thankfully, you know, we always get a lot of prep time with Zack. You know, he's action is important to him, and he realizes that, you know, we need time to prepare. And that job was one of those things where, I mean, we basically got paid to get into the best shape of our lives. You know, all we had to do is do it. You know, we just, and it was just really great for everyone involved. Everyone worked hard. The stunt performers worked hard. The actors worked hard, and we got plenty of time to prepare. I think we started prepping 2 or 3 months before we left for Montreal to shoot that. Everybody got in great shape, and we maintained as we were there. We were working out 8 hours a day. And, you know, with choreography and with training with Mark Twight. Mark Twight, you know, we were introduced to Mark on that show, and he has gone on to do all of Zack's movies where he's training the actors and sometimes the stunt performers. But on that one, he was training the stunt performers and the actors, and he had great training methods that I had never done before. They were really very effective. So we would train 8 hours a day with that stuff, and then we would go as a team. You know, everybody go home and eat dinner, and then we go out to the gym, you know, afterwards in Montreal and lift weights for, you know, an hour and a half after that. And we did that every day up till shooting. And then while we're shooting, anytime we could sneak away and work out and lift and stuff, we would. So we got in really great shape. And I still have people ask me to this day, were those abs, were they prosthetics? I can tell you honestly, no one had prosthetics. They would do some painting where they would shade in to make the abs pop a little bit, you know, with sometimes, but no one had prosthetics. That was all hard work.
That's amazing. And working in television versus film, what do you think is like the main difference as a stunt person?
I think television and film, the main difference is you don't have the prep time as a stunt person normally in TV. Sometimes you do, but normally in a television show, you may have 2 days to prep something. If it's a fight or if you're going to prep a fall or something like that, or a car sequence, you usually have a couple days. Now, there are some shows that are so action oriented that they will give you more time. I did a show called Banshee, where I was hired as one of the fight choreographers, and every now and then I would perform something. But mostly I was doing fight choreography, and we would actually get like a month, which was really strange for TV. But some shows will do that if it's really action heavy. But to me, that's the biggest difference. And then TV moves really fast. With film, they shoot like a shot. They'll shoot it at like a particular scene. They'll shoot it at every conceivable angle. Then they'll change lenses and they'll get this guy's coverage and they turn around and get this guy's coverage, and everything moves really slow on a film. Whereas TV, it's just like bam, 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 bam. They're knocking it out. They're knocking it out, because they want to get an episode done in a week, so they're knocking things out as fast as they can. And that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. There's aspects I like about both, but it's kind of cool. It keeps you on your toes with TV because you have to stay really sharp because you don't have as much prep time.
Have you ever faced a situation like, since you said things move pretty slowly on film, where if you are shooting some sort of a fight scene or any action scene, whatever, your body essentially warms down, it cools down between takes, and then you end up pulling a muscle or something like that?
Yeah, that's the thing about films when you're doing action. Like it's, you can count on you're going to be doing a lot of takes, because you just are, Even if you get something in one, you still have more setups, So yeah, you got to keep loose. You got to hydrate. That's a huge thing. Anytime I'm doing something that's a lot of action, I'll bring in I'll bring a 6-pack of coconut water and hydrate with coconut water. It's really good for replenishing everything your body needs. So I usually do that. But I think you just got to stay loose, and just the more experience you get, the more what your body needs. It gets easier as you gain more and more experience. So, but that's something that you have to be aware of, because you're right. If you get tightened up too much, you'll pull something. And I see it happen all the time. Somebody they'll pull something. That's never a good thing.
The coconut water, huh? That's interesting. Probably got to try that out next time.
Yeah, in wartime, I think since the 60s, if they're low on plasma, they've actually been able to substitute coconut water, pure coconut water, for plasma. So it's really good for your body. It's pretty an amazing liquid for your body. So yeah, you should try it. If you're doing something really strenuous and try coconut water.
100%, yeah. I mean, we have tons of coconut trees and king coconut trees over here in the tropics, so it shouldn't be too hard to find.
Nice.
Yeah. And about not transitioning, but working as an actor at the same time, on certain shows, and most recently playing like the lead antagonist in Army of the Dead. How much did you have to focus on your performance, as in did you take any acting classes? Have you taken any acting classes throughout the years, or in order to prepare for certain roles where you had maybe speaking parts on screen?
Yeah, I've when I first moved to California, I took about 6 years of acting classes. So off and on, whenever I wasn't working, I was able to get into class and study. And then when I got a job, I'd have to leave and do the job. But I think they're very, very valuable. Even if you're a stunt performer and you have no desire to act, right? You just don't like it. And I know lots of stunt performers that don't. They just don't like it. They don't want to say lines. They just want to do stunts. That's fine, but it'll actually help you if you can do it. Take some classes and get a certain proficiency. It'll help you in your stunt performance, because a lot of stunt performing is acting. Acting isn't really about saying lines. That's just, that's part of it, but that's not really the main emphasis of acting, So I think anyone who has aspirations of being a stunt performer, they need to get out and take acting lessons. And that's what I did. And I feel pretty comfortable doing it. And it's served me well over the years. It's definitely helped me. And then stunt coordinators, and it's just like another tool in your toolbox, right? Because then stunt coordinators that know you can act, they'll hire you for things that have, like an acting stunt role, where this guy has a few lines, and then you end up getting more work out of it. So I think it's a valuable thing.
That's interesting because, like you said, stunt performance is, again, you are performing, so some fine knowledge of acting would definitely come in handy. And the you've done so many various roles, like you said, creature effects, and then I remember the headless horseman, I guess, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
That was an interesting one because how did they pull that off? Your head wasn't visible. Were you like in a green sock or something like that?
Yeah, they had a mask, a green screen mask over top of my head, and
Cool.
I really enjoyed that job a lot. I would have kept doing it. I did the pilot and I did season 1, but I would have kept doing that job. But that's when Batman came up.
Okay.
So yeah, I got the Batman job after season 1. No, right at the tail end of season 1, I got the Batman job. So I was going to do that, of course. But other than that, if Zack calls me, yeah, I'm going to work for Zack. But other than that, I would have kept doing that job because I really enjoyed that job a lot.
It did look like it because I saw that one particular fight scene with Patrick Gorman, and it seems like the two of you were having quite a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. He's a really good guy. He's a friend now. I made friends with him on that show, and we've kept in contact through Facebook. Really like him, and that was a fun little sequence. Clancy too, another real great actor who, he got his start in what's it called? I can't remember the name of the movie now. But they're doing a sequel. They're actually doing a remake of it. But he was the bad guy in that movie, and he got his start there. And I really liked the movie a lot, and I asked him a lot about that. And that was his first movie, and that was a great role. Man, I'll think of the name of it while we're talking. I'll just let you know.
No problem. I want to talk a little bit about, not a little bit, but as much as time would allow us, about Army of the Dead. Man, you were emoting through all those layers of makeup, and I guess it was unlike any other role that you had performed before. Correct me if I'm wrong. And there was quite a lot of responsibility on your shoulders as well. Mm-hmm. What was it like?
It was great. Zack called me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this zombie movie, and I have this part. I think you'd be great for it. It's a zombie leader. And I was like, I'm going to work with you again, Zack. Absolutely, whatever you need, I'll do it. So it was really a fun process. Anytime I work with Zack with something where it's got some acting to it, we always meet, before we start filming. We just go over everything about the character, and I learn all the character's backstory, and I learn what Zack's vision is for the character, so we go over that. And when he explained it to me, I was really excited about it because it's not your classic zombie movie, and it's not your classic zombie. There's much more to this guy than what, people realize maybe. I think some people kind of have an idea what's going on, but there's a lot more to him than a zombie. It's not like that, So I really was excited about it, and I liked the challenge of it, and it was just fun. It was, working with Zack is just fun, and it's because it's like a little family because we've done so many jobs together. His core group of people, and it's always really, really nice to get back together with them and work with them. But I did enjoy doing the character a lot.
The scene where you realize the Queen Zombie's dead and the child within is also that was pretty emotional in a way. Like the audience could, I guess, empathize with the character like that. And you don't find people empathizing with zombies as much.
Yeah.
So that specific scene, what challenges were there in, again, emoting through all those layers of makeup and making sure your emotions were coming through? How did that work? Was it did you have to coordinate with the makeup department? I know Justin Rowley worked on it. He was on the show before. So was there any coordination between that department? and you guys, or was it just purely you?
There was a lot of coordination from what I've heard between Zack and Justin, because I remember Zack saying he wants to make sure that you can't see emotion come through the prosthetics. So part of that is making sure Justin does what he needs to do, and part of that is making sure I do what I need to do. And so between the two, I thought we were pretty successful with what we needed to have the audience perceive and what they needed to see from this character. It was challenging, to get myself in that place, because I'm not a full-time actor. So it was challenging for me to get myself to that place. And, everybody has like little things they do to get themselves to that place, but it was rough. And I remember after that day, especially the one after when I bring the my queen back to the, to our place, that was emotionally a tough day. And it's like, I remember telling Damon, and I was like, we were done. I was just like emotionally drawn. I was just done. I was just, just didn't have nothing left. I remember telling Damon, like, man, how do actors do this all the time? Like, this takes so much out of you. Like, it's like, wow, I don't know how they do it, but, it was tough, but, thankfully I was able to get myself into the right state of mind, and, the acting classes, of course, helped tremendously. So, I liked the way it turned out. I thought it conveyed how I was feeling, so I thought it turned out okay.
I think it turned out more than okay.
No,
it was amazing, man.
Thank you.
It was amazing. We have 2 questions over here. I'm just gonna
sure
them up. Can you recall your memory about meeting Zack Snyder for the first time on set, and how energetic was he on the sets of Army of the Dead?
The first time I met Zack on set, I'd already known Zack for a few years before I met him on set. I was introduced to him through Damon, and then a friend of ours, Kurt Johnstad, who was one of the writers of 300, introduced Damon to Zack. So we kind of like all met him around the same time. But the first time I met him on set was on Dawn of the Dead. He was doing additional photography, because most of that movie was shot in Toronto, but he did about a week additional in Los Angeles, and that's the part that I worked on. If anybody can recall, it's pretty much the last scene in the movie before the credits. Or it's actually, I think it takes place during the credits. I think is how it's done. And they're sailing on that ship, and they find that island, and all the zombies are on the island. They're hoping there's not going to be anybody on the island, no zombies, but there are, So I'm one of the zombies that comes at them, in that last shot. But Zack is super energetic on sets. He has especially on Army, because he was directing, he's doing the cinematography, and he was shooting, a lot of it as well. John was still his #1 cameraman, and Ian still shot second unit, but he was shooting a lot of stuff as well. And he's getting right in there, and he was just, it was back to, a Zack Snyder film as I remember that, he was back to, it was just a fun process. It's always a fun process working with him. And he just gets it. He understands, that the more he can make this an enjoyable experience for everybody, the more he's going to get out of his cast and crew. And that's why everybody is so faithful to Zack. That's why when you see these actors, Ray Fisher and Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck and, these different people that are really so faithful to him and how they speak about him, that's why, he's just genuinely a good guy, and he makes the process enjoyable for everyone. You will never see Zack freaking out on somebody on set, no matter how much pressure is on him. It doesn't matter. He won't do that, And so, yeah, that was fun. Army of the Dead was a lot of fun. It was really cool.
I guess it definitely pays to be a good person on any film set, right? I mean, just take a look at how the whole Snyder Cut movement evolved into what it was, and it ended up in the film actually getting released. So, yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. The fans made that happen. You know, without the fans' support, AT&T never takes notice, you know, and then they never contact Warner Brothers, you know, and then it never happens. It's all about the fans. It really is, you know. And so, yeah, that just is kind of a testament to how people feel about Zack, whether you've ever met him or not. And a lot of people have. And they, you know, we did this thing. He asked me to do this thing one time where he was doing a charity function for his college. And then he did 3 days of films. And then he had a panel afterwards, you know, talk about it. And then he had me do the Batman vs. Superman one with him. And I remember he had to get up early the next morning for an early flight to go to Atlantic City, you know, to do scouts for Army of the Dead, I think it was. And he, after the panel, we all stayed and signed autographs, and he stayed for hours. Like, he stayed till every single person that had traveled, you know, to see this got an autograph that wanted one. You know, and I bet we got out of there at 1 in the morning. I bet it was about 1 a.m. in the morning. You know, I know he didn't get much sleep, but he wanted to make sure that everybody that came went home happy, that they if they wanted a picture, they wanted an autograph or whatever. So, you know, things like that are why people like the guy so much, and, you know, why this whole thing happened, I think. You know, he gets so much support from the fans. It's really great to see.
It makes sense, because when I was at Comic-Con, I think it was in 2019, I saw the banner that they flew over the convention. That was, I mean, it's crazy, like how the length to which fans would go. I mean, but again, that does essentially come from, I guess, who you are as a person, and also definitely like the content that you create. But
for sure,
yeah.
I've never seen. I mean, there's a lot of amazing directors out there, and I've never seen anything like that happen for any other director. I haven't seen it. I don't know if it has happened, but I haven't seen it.
I don't think that has. This is the first.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
We just want to talk a little bit about, again, back to going back to television before we come on to film again. You spoke about the challenges of, not necessarily having as much prep time as you would on a film, and at the same time, the recovery time in case you do have some sort of an injury. How does that play into your career as a stuntman? Definitely on television, much more than film.
Well, I mean, I guess you get an injury on television, and it depends on what you do. If you're doubling one of the leads, then you probably don't have a lot of downtime, depending on what the episodes are like, and depending on how much action is in the show. It really depends on those things, So you could possibly get plenty of downtime to heal for your injuries, or, you might not have much time at all, depending on what you do on the show and what type of show it is. I know, if it's something it's going to take some time and they need more action for that character, they'll probably have to replace you until that you're healed, So that can be a tough situation. With films, there's usually one main double in a film for the lead actors, and then there's usually a secondary double and then maybe another double. So sometimes you have up to 3 doubles, and you have the main guy doing like 85 to 90% of the stuff, and then you have a secondary double doing some, and then you have, then if there's a special thing that comes in, like driving, speciality like that. Like I drive sometimes. I've done a little driving, but I'm not considered a top driver at all. So when you go to meet someone to drive the Batmobile, it's not going to be me. They're going to bring in somebody that does that speciality. So
Gotcha.
It just depends on, really, to answer to your question, it just depends on the show and what you're doing on the show.
And you also worked on The Mandalorian. So how different was that? Because if it's CGI heavy show or a movie, essentially you're reacting to a green screen, right? Like you gotta have some sense of imagination. But I guess it was different on the Mandalorian with the new tech that they had. The name kind of evades me right now, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they call that area the volume. You're in the volume,
exactly.
And it's all those LED lights surrounding you, and it's pretty amazing. Because I remember standing on set and they had like a vehicle, like a Jeep type vehicle, and it was about 30 feet away from me, and I swear to God, it looked like it was real. 30 feet away. I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not real. It's really amazing technology. And then I did Star Wars, I did Solo, a Star Wars story, and they had different technology, but they also had surrounding with what appears to be the planet you're on, and everything else around it. So that is really nice for the actors. It just makes them, I think, able to put themselves in that place so much easier. You don't need as much imagination. But then we did 300 where that was all blue screen. So we had a lot of imagination there. So I like the new technology though. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely looks cool, and I think it's gonna pretty much change the game with the pandemic and all that. Like basically, if you can't really go out to a location, you can bring the location to you. So
yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And they're just going to get better and better at it. It's going to get cheaper and cheaper, and it's definitely be more prevalent.
100%. You also worked on the movie that kickstarted the MCU as well, the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
And you squeezed your size 12 feet into a size 10.
Oh, you heard that, huh?
Yeah. What was it like? What was that entire process like? Because I mean, those movies have evolved so much during the past decade. But seeing as you were part of the movie that started it all, how did that work out?
That was my first time being a superhero in a film, so that one is real special to me. And I wanted that job really badly. Obviously. I came in for about the last 5 weeks of shooting. Like the stuff I did was the Ironmonger stuff at the end of the movie. So they, had me try on the suit because that's the only Iron Man movie where a complete suit was used. Everything after that was partial suit with a mocap suit, or sometimes a complete mocap suit, no suit at all. So that was real special that I got to be in the full Iron Man suit. It was tough because the suit would pinch you when you try to get in different stances. It would pinch you in your legs and your arms. But I prefer that. It's a lot tougher to work that way. Mocap suits are like pajamas. It's really easy to work in. But I feel more the character when I'm in the real suit. It just feels more. I get more into it.
Was it real metal or was it some other material?
It was like a fiberglass resin type material. So it wasn't really super heavy or anything like that. But it was just clunky to move in. I had it a lot easier than my buddy. Mike Justice was in the Mark I suit, the big silver, the big.
Oh, yeah.
He was in that, and his suit was really heavy. He told me stories about that suit. He's like, "Oh my gosh, man! It was tough just to lift your arm with that flamethrower on it. I mean, it was a workout, So I got lucky compared to Mike. But that's a real special job for me because it was my first superhero. And it was it's the one that really set the Marvel universe in motion, and really enjoyed it. Now, obviously, I wanted it really badly because my feet were like numb for about a good month after that job.
That's crazy, but I mean, you enjoy your job, right? I mean, it's crazy, like how many different genres that you get to work on. I mean, the number of people you are surrounded by on every single day.
Yeah.
What's the most important lesson you've learned, throughout all these years of working with multiple crews, directors, projects?
I mean, there's so many. I think just to look at it the industry as a whole, I think the most important lesson I learned was perseverance. Because you don't, sometimes a person comes on the scene and they're just an instant success. They just whatever reason. They have a ton of charisma. They know the right people, whatever it is. Sometimes that happens, but most of the time, people don't see all the hard work that goes into it. People don't see all the disappointment that you come in contact with throughout your career of trying to get jobs that you don't get, trying to get parts that you don't get. Most people don't see just how hard it is to get to the point you get to when finally your work starts to come out. So the thing that I would say was the biggest lesson I learned is perseverance. You have to want it so bad that you don't let anything stop you. You don't let any of the negative. I've had people tell me I'm too tall and thin to be a stuntman. When I first started, before I really broke in, I've had people tell me that. Well, most stuntmen are short and stocky. You're never going to make it. And it's a shame that some people, when they're told things like that in life, they listen for it goes into their mind and then it sits in there and it destroys their dreams, and you can't let that happen. Because people will say that for whatever reason. Just because somebody says something to you doesn't mean they're an expert in what they're saying. They don't know you. They don't know what kind of heart you have. They don't know you as a person. So you don't listen to that stuff. You have something you really want to do. You don't let anything stop you. And I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing I can take away from this industry is you need to have perseverance. I can tell you, I have my first acting teacher told us, we had a big class. We had about 35 people in that class. And he told us that, most of you don't want this bad enough. In 5 years, there might be 2 of you that are still in the industry after 5 years. And I think he was right. I think you have to want it that badly and you just can't let anything stop you.
That's very valuable advice, I guess, because so many people say they want to either become filmmakers or stunt people, whatever, but the heart, the courage that they have is, I guess, more, that's more valuable than the talent that you have, according to what you said. So, yeah, perseverance.
Talent helps, but talent doesn't take you far enough without being committed to it, and without working. It just doesn't, I mean, you see that all the time in sports. You see this amazing athlete get to college and it just doesn't go much further than that because it just didn't put the work in. When you get up to that next level, everybody's putting the work in, So, yeah, talent's nice. Talent helps, but you got to have that work ethic and you got to want it.
Got one more question here.
Sure.
How did you figure out that this was what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I wanted to move to California. I wanted to study martial arts. I thought about coming home and opening up a martial arts school in my hometown of Pittsburgh after I became an instructor in California. But in the back of my head, I always had I think I want to try to get in the film industry. I think I want to try stunts because I didn't know, for a portion of my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Nothing really appealed to me as far as something that I would love doing, that I could get up in the morning and enjoy going to work, enjoy my job. And I didn't have that for the longest time. I had jobs that were okay, that I liked, but that didn't really love. I didn't want to do it my whole life. And so I had regular jobs. So I know, I appreciate what I do now. I didn't get into stunts until like 29, 30 years of age, Okay. So I was training up to that point. I was working up to that point to get into it. But before I didn't have my first job until I was about 29 or 30. So it was something that I just kind of found, You know, it's had a lot of, the stunts have a lot of aspect of physicality of things that I've enjoyed doing my whole life. I played football since I was a little kid. I played hockey. I boxed. You know, I like physicality. And it just seemed like, wow, it just seemed so exciting to me that I can do something, I can do work that is going to be around long after I'm gone from this planet. It's going to still be there for people to enjoy. And there was something about that that really resonated with me, you know, that made me feel like I have to do this. You know, I want, you know, I want my children and my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren to see like what I've accomplished and to be proud, you know, of our name and proud of who they are. And I think, you know, I think stuff like that's important for your future generations of children. And I think it's important that they feel pride in who they are, you know? So, yeah, it's just something I found, and luckily I did find it, you know, because who knows? I didn't know what I was going to do, to be honest with you.
I loved what you just said, that your work is going to live on after you, long after you're gone. And I guess that's like your legacy, right? Because that's one of the main reasons I got into filmmaking myself. So it's in a way like you're immortalizing a part of yourself through film.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you are. And it's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's too bad you know you won't be around to see your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, or future generations get a kick out of it. You know, but I think it's a good reason as any to, you know, and it's an honorable profession too. I mean, how many times have you just been feeling really lousy about life or whatever, you know, and you turn on a movie that you like, you know, and all of a sudden your day brightens up and you feel better. It's a very honorable profession. You know, I like that it can give people happiness, you know, and that's important because you could change someone's future, you know, with your performance, and it's a very cool thing.
And I don't think anyone would have been able to get through the pandemic if movies did not exist.
It would have been a lot tougher, right? It would have been.
Yeah.
It was tough as it was, but you're right. Yeah. I can't tell you how many movies I watched during the pandemic. Yeah, for sure.
Just want to talk a little bit about one more thing before we wrap up. Working with Richard Norton on Suicide Squad. Yeah.
You're the first person to ask me about this. So that's, you know, I get a lot of the same questions on podcasts, which is understandable. I understand because there's some very obvious things that people want to know. But it's nice. I like this question.
We had Richard on the show before, which is why I wanted to talk to you about him. Yeah, I've looked up to the guy. I mean, his movies and all that, and then he comes from a martial arts background. So do you. I thought, oh yeah, I gotta ask this.
Yeah, I love Richard. It was so cool for me to work with him and to meet him, because I watched him a lot as a kid. I mean, he was the real deal, you know, when, you know, he was like he did some great movies, you know, like he did some great performances. I love him in Octagon. You remember Octagon with Chuck Norris?
I do. Yeah.
I love that character. We talked a lot about that when I first met him, and I have so much respect for the guy. Still in great shape today, you know, and really a great martial artist. He transitioned into jiu-jitsu and is a fantastic jiu-jitsu practitioner. He taught me a lot when I got a chance, because we would do jiu-jitsu workouts with other members of the stunt team and the cast. Yeah, really a great guy. I really I hope I get to work with him again sometime.
He's a really fun person to, I guess, you know, even be around. I haven't met him, but even when we were on the show, it was one of the most. He was one of the most enthusiastic guests I've had. So yeah, nice. I mean, it's nice to see him maintaining that same energy even now. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to look for that episode.
I'll send it over to you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Awesome. And I guess that is. Do you have any questions? Oh, yeah, we got one more question here. What do you think your best work is?
That I don't. Wow, that's another good question. I've been asked, what's my favorite fight, but my best work. It's so funny. I think I've done my best work in my 40s and 50s because I'm no spring chicken anymore, right? But I think I've done my best work as I've gotten older. It might be Army of the Dead, because actually my biggest fight in that movie didn't make the movie. It got cut. It just wasn't. It just gave away my character too much where it sat into the timeline. It just didn't work. So I'm hoping that it ends up in a sequel somewhere. Because I know they're, I'm sure they're planning a sequel. But I think I did some good stuff on that job. I think that might have been my best. I liked the Batman stuff I've done as well. I really like that stuff as well. I like the Headless Horseman stuff. I like the stuff I did in Watchmen. I like the stuff I did in Sucker Punch. But if I were to pick a favorite, it might be Army of the Dead.
And with whom was that fight, the one that got cut out?
I'm sorry?
The fight that got cut out?
Uh-huh.
Who was it with? I mean, was it with Batista or DJ?
That was Amari's guys. So that kind of like, I take out Amari's guys, right? And then me and Amari have a face-off together, right? So it kind of is cool because it sets up the fight at the end that I have with Amari. But, I'm sure it killed Zack to have to take it out because Zack loves action. But it just didn't work, in the film. Yeah, that was a cool scene. That was one of my favorite scenes in that film for sure, because we have a nice little square off, where he has the saw up and the blade is like inches from my face and I'm just staring him down, and it's a cool scene. I hope it shows up sometime.
I think that was one criticism that the audience kind of had, like you never really saw the saw in action as much as you could have had. So it's good to know that it was actually filmed, but didn't make the cut. So hopefully it does make its way to a sequel, or at least up to the internet. So
I think it's possible that it could end up as a flashback or something. It's possible.
And you mentioned that your best work has come out in the later years of your life. So as a stunt person, the physicality and the things that you can do kind of I wouldn't say it's going to get less. It kind of makes it a bit, I guess, more challenging as you age. And how do you think you manage to navigate this path?
I think it's a combination of things, to be honest with you. I'm very fortunate. I come from good genetics for aging. My dad's about 83 and he looks like he's 70. I've been very fortunate to have good genes. I also have, blessed to be, fairly athletic, and I've kept myself in shape, since I can remember. I've always kept myself in really good shape. I never let myself get out of shape. I may not look exactly like I did in 300, but I'm never too far from that. So I can always pop back into that shape if I want. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I still really enjoy it. There's going to come a time, of course, where my body just breaks down. I just can't physically do it anymore, But, until that point, I'm going to try to continue to do it because I love performing. I would rather perform than, do things behind the camera. I've done a little fight choreography in my career. I just like performing better. I just really enjoy it, So I think it's just been a combination of just genetically, I'm very lucky, and I've worked hard my whole life to stay in shape. And, when you do that, it's like money in the bank. your body responds so well because you've been doing it your whole life. So even if you let yourself get a little bit out of shape, you can snap right back into it because your body remembers. So I think those things, yeah, so yeah, because it's tough. I work a lot with people half my age. Sometimes I'm a character that has to be, like Batman has to be better than they are. He has to be faster and better, stronger. So it's a challenge. But I enjoy it. So far so good.
Any advice to somebody who's gonna start out in the stunt industry? What would you say?
I think, the thing that I said earlier about perseverance is huge. That's a huge one. Seek out people who are better than you, right? If your specialty is something, and you're going to need a specialty, whether it's gymnastics, martial arts, free running, driving, whatever it is, you're going to need a specialty, and then you need to train with people who have that specialty and are better than you at that specialty. And then you need to learn other skills as well, because you need to make yourself as valuable as possible. And the more skills you have, the more valuable you are to a production. And you need to get yourself out there and meet people. If you're a social person, you have an advantage, because you're probably already good at getting out there and meeting people and making friends, and training with people. So I would say that's really important as well. And be a good person. Be a good person. Be open to learning and having somebody tell you what you need to do to improve. Because people in this industry, they want to work with good people. And if you're really, 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 really talented and you're not a very good person, you'll work for a while and you'll still work occasionally, but that doesn't usually last. Those people usually get weeded out because people just don't want to work with people who aren't easy to get along with. That's really important. Just be a good person. And I think you do those things, and I think you'll be well on your way, to a career. You just, like I said, you don't give up. You just can't give up.
Yeah. One last question. I don't know how you can answer this one, but
sure.
What is the end for you?
What is the end for me?
I think I think what he means is career-wise, I guess.
As far as what will I be doing in the end, or when do I quit?
Probably, I guess. Yeah.
Probably when I quit. What?
I think so. Niduk, you want to elaborate a little bit on the question? Yeah, I think it's more about like probably what's your end goal with the whole with filmmaking, I guess. Are you gonna keep being a stuntman? Like you said, you love performing, but would you at any point switch over to filmmaking itself, like getting behind the camera?
I've often thought about like directing a short, coming up with an interesting story. I've thought about that because I do like to be creative, so I think something like that would be pretty cool. And I mean, with the equipment today, I mean, you can do it easily.
Exactly.
It's a really cool time in life to be a filmmaker. I mean, it's never been a better time than there is now, because you can literally come out of nowhere, and put something together and gain a lot of attention, and then before you know it, you're directing a film somewhere.
Yeah.
I think maybe directing a short would be pretty cool, and then just see how that goes. I may end up doing that at some point.
Well, all the best with that, and the rest of your career. Thank you so much for joining the show. It was really insightful. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show.
Awesome. Till next time, this is Junkyard Theory, folks.